I've been missing for 18 years when my wealthy parents found me again. And the fake daughter was crying her heart out on the floor. I said to my parents, thanks for raising me. Sis is back, so this family doesn't need me anymore. My parents hugged her tenderly. Sweetheart, don't be silly. You're our only daughter in this lifetime. My fiancé declared his love for her. No matter who you are, you're the only one I love. They fussed over the fake daughter, and when I was in a critical car accident, they were busy celebrating her dog's birthday. I packed my things, accepted an invitation from NASA, and quietly joined a 5-year confined satellite research project. After I left, my family went crazy searching the country for me. On the day I was discharged from the car accident, I signed the confidentiality agreement in the hospital. A NASA employee excitedly shook my hand. Welcome aboard, he reminded me. This project is confidential, and you can't mention it to anyone. The 5 years of research will be completely enclosed, and you can't contact the outside world. He gave me 3 days to say goodbye to my family. I just smiled faintly and said, I'm an orphan. I don't have a family. I discharged myself and returned home to find my parents with heavy expressions. Mom, with restrained anger, said, Wendy, where have you been messing around? You haven't been home for 3 months. Your sister waited half the night to celebrate your birthday with you and you didn't show. Do you know how disappointed she was? Dad's eyes were cold, emotionless. Looks like she's grown wings, doesn't even listen to us. Better to just get her out of the house early. 3 months ago, I had a life-threatening car accident. The hospital called them numerous times, but all they got was a cold, busy tone. Now they pretend to blame me for not coming home for the dog's birthday that I couldn't understand. I'm their real daughter, yet they treat me worse than an adopted one. That I in my last days, I didn't want to argue. I calmly replied, didn't notice. I've been busy. Dad slammed the table, ready to yell at me. Luna walked down the stairs in the Hermes Dad bought her, wearing an understanding yet weak expression. Dad, Mom, sis is definitely busy studying. She's got her PhD after all, and research is heavy. I just threw a small birthday party for my pet, no big deal. Dad scoffed dismissively, saying PhD or not, it's useless. She doesn't even know to spend time with family. What a waste, might as well drop out. I chuckled quietly, not responding. The reason I missed the birthday was because Luna arranged for someone to hit me with a car at the school gate. The driver fled and I was unconscious, waking up 3 months later. She didn't want me at any events where our parents were present. Just a bit longer. I'd be leaving soon anyway. Mom, surprised, frowned. Where are you going? You can't go anywhere without home. She thought I had nowhere to go, since I lived in a poor orphanage before being found. Luna smirked, but sat with the parents, looking sad. My sister probably doesn't want to be where I am. I shouldn't take this place. I should leave. She flaunted her diamond necklace. The sparkling gem hinted at its rare value. Mom's favorite jewelry. I remember her telling me when I was little. Luna, this is our family heirloom. When you grow up, it's yours. But now it was around Luna's neck. Mom looked at me, awkwardly explaining. Luna insisted on the necklace, so I gave it to her. You're the big sister, be kind to her. Don't argue. I quietly said, it's okay. You can give it to whoever you like. I've heard similar things countless times. Anything Luna wanted, I had to give up. I got used to it. They seemed surprised by my understanding. Luna insisted I shouldn't take from my sister, but I like it so much. Everything in this house is yours. I just want this small necklace. You don't mind, do you? Dad sighed, patting her head. She's so understanding. Didn't we say you're our only daughter? Luna's tearful face made them dote on her even more. The 3 of them were loving, and no one remembered me. Everyone forgot Luna was just an adopted replacement from the orphanage, and the 18 years I was gone, my parents, in their guilt for losing me, gave her all their love. A sigh from Luna, and they were tense. A tear from her, and their world collapsed. On my first night back, Luna couldn't accept it, sobbing as she stood on the edge of the rooftop.
Rooftop.sh screamed, I'm abandoned.
I'm just an unwanted orphan. Better if I die, then Mom, Dad, and Sis can be together forever. They were instantly frantic, hurriedly coaxing her down, guarding her closely. Dad and Mom pampered her with fruits and snacks. As I was fainting from hunger, ignored later, they nonchalantly suggested a countryside camping trip, including me. I eagerly joined, only to be abandoned in the wilderness. I survived in the wild for a week, clothes tattered, cold and starving, before returning home. They were watching TV with Luna, not even looking at me. We wanted you to learn your lesson. This house is your sister's. She's been with us 18 years, so her bond is much deeper. You can't compete with her. Got it? I got it. I knew that day I didn't have a home anymore. That morning as I was packing my bags to leave, Luna came up to me holding a bowl of wontons. She smiled brightly. Sis, try the breakfast I made for you. I glanced at her fake smiling face and walked past her into the kitchen without saying a word. Suddenly she slipped, and the hot soup spilled all over herself. My parents heard the noise and came out. Seeing the burns on her, they were worried and upset. Isn't the housekeeper supposed to cook? You know you can't handle it. Why were you in the kitchen? Luna lowered her head, then glanced up at me after a moment. My sister texted last night asking me to make breakfast for her. I didn't want to upset her, so I got up early to do it. I guess I'm just too clumsy. My heart sank. Just as I was about to explain that I didn't, my dad came over and slapped me hard. Wendy, is this how you bully your sister when we're not around? Luna lost her parents when she was young, didn't have a good life growing up. You should be making it up to her. You're just a wild child with no morals. Luna put on that enduring repentant act, pretending to stick up for me. Don't be mad at my sister, she told them. I can take it, as long as I can stay with you all. With the blame already on me, I didn't bother saying anything else and turned to the kitchen to find something for breakfast. My dad was about to blow up again when Oscar showed up unexpectedly. Oscar used to be like a brother to me, my childhood fiancé. We were as close as family. But now, seeing Luna's bandaged fingers, he frowned and questioned me. Wendy, did you hurt your sister again? Luna has played this injured victim part so many times, always running to him and my parents to complain. Oscar has developed a reflex to blame me for every one of her scrapes. I simply stated it wasn't me. She burned herself. Oscar wasn't buying it. Well, it had to be your fault somehow. Don't act like I don't know what kind of person you really are. You pretend to be this innocent, bookish girl, but you're ungrateful. Your aunt and uncle did you a favor taking you in. Don't ruin our bond with Luna. After dressing Luna's wounds, he personally drove his car to the door and took her to work. Even my parents followed behind them in another car, protecting her all the way. And I was left to eat breakfast in a now empty house. On my last day before leaving, I went to an academic conference with my mentor. There I saw my parents with Luna, and Oscar holding her waist closely. Dad proudly introduced Luna to everyone at the conference. This is my beloved daughter, an outstanding talent who started her own tech company that's about to go public. Hearing this, everyone congratulated and praised Luna. But someone piped up. Didn't I hear you found a missing child? Didn't you bring them today? Dad's face tightened slightly. Who said that? Just baseless rumors. Mom smoothly added, pulling Luna close, we only have one child. How could there be another? Must have been some relative staying over, causing misunderstandings. They denied my existence with such effort, like admitting it would shame them. I walked over with my drink and their cheerful conversation stopped when they noticed me. Luna feigned surprise. Sister, what are you doing here? Today's conference is by invitation. Did you sneak an invite card? She lowered her voice, acting like it was embarrassing. Mom looked awkwardly at me but couldn't justify lying. Wendy, don't make a scene. We brought Luna here for business. Her company needs to secure a patent. Seeing my mentor behind me, her eyes lit up. Professor, we're interested in your university's latest aerospace patent. Could it be used for our daughter's company? My mentor glanced at me. Wendy is the patent's inventor. You'd need her permission. Luna's eyes flashed with resentment before hiding it. Oh no, my sister doesn't like me. She'd never give it to me. Dad's eyebrows furrowed. He pulled me aside. Wendy, change the patent inventor to Luna. You've never given her anything nice. She needs this. It's wasted with you. You don't know how to use it. I almost laughed from disbelief. How is this not just outright robbery? I didn't even think before saying, pay for it if you want it. I'm not giving it away for free. Dad pointed at me, speechless with rage. Mom's eyes were filled with disappointment. Wendy, we're family. Why treat your sister like this? You snuck into this meeting to force us into acknowledging you, didn't you? I'll make you our daughter officially if you give her the patent. I never thought they could be so despicable. With a slight smirk I replied, what makes you think I want to be part of your family? Without giving them another chance to speak, I turned and left. Outside the conference, I saw a shop window displaying a huge teddy bear. It reminded me of when I was a kid. I thought these were cute and begged Dad to buy me one. Back then, Dad would lift me high above his head, seeing how much I adored it, and say with a chuckle, "If Wendy wants it, Daddy will buy you 100 of them." Back then, I believed Dad loved me most in the world, and that would never change that I was just gone for 18 years, but in no time, the family who once loved me had all been won over by an adopted daughter that I wasn't happy about it. But I had to accept it. Luna was trailing right behind me, noticing my gaze linger in a store. She deliberately sighed at the toys in the window display. "Those dolls are really exquisite. I hope I get something like that for my birthday." Dad didn't even think twice. He immediately pulled out his phone to call his assistant. "Wrap up everything in that store for Luna and send it to the house." Luna pretended to be hesitant. "Wouldn't buying it all be a bit too extravagant?" Dad patted her head. "Not too much, as long as you like it, it's all yours. No need to wait for your birthday. I'll get it for you now." Luna immediately beamed and said, "Thank you, Dad." Oscar helped Mom out from behind me and shot me a dirty look. "What are you looking at? You don't think Uncle would buy something for you, right? Stop dreaming. You've never been part of our family, and you can never take his place. Luna is one of a kind for us." They drove away in their private car, leaving me alone by the venue's entrance. The cold wind was biting. I pulled my coat tighter and grabbed a cab home. All my belongings were thrown outside, scattered messily like trash by the door. The maid apologized. The master and madam said you should leave and never come back, that I didn't rush in to question them. I just quietly packed up and left with my things. Later that night, I boarded a flight to a secret research base of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. Before I left, I sent out a text to everyone from Wendy. I willingly sever all ties with the Brown family. I won't be in contact again. Not long after I sent it and was about to turn off my phone, I got a reply. Luna sent me a private message. "Sister, Mom and Dad know you're leaving. They want to say something to you." She followed up with a video. I clicked it and saw Luna filming with her phone. Dad was sitting on the couch with Mom watching TV, both of them cuddling Luna's dog. Luna's voice came from the background. "Mom, Dad, Sister said she's leaving this family for good. What do you think?" Dad chuckled dismissively. "That's great. No one's gonna bother us anymore." Seeing her was always annoying. My Mom glanced at him, slightly reproachful, but didn't refute. "Let her suffer a bit," she said. "That way she'll realize how good she had it at home. She's so clueless." Oscar came in with fruit from the kitchen, saw Luna with the phone, and grinned as he got in frame. With a smile that had never graced me, he said, "Hey cutie, what are you filming? Do I look handsome today?" The video ended and Luna sent a second message. "See? No one here cares about you. Get a clue and take a hike. Don't ever dream of taking my spot." Her words were practically dripping with venom. After watching, I didn't respond. I just removed my SIM card and flushed it down the toilet. Once I reached the research base, I dove into work with my colleagues, blocking out the outside world. Our communication devices were taken away and we weren't allowed to leave. But I enjoyed the peace, having no one around to hassle me. Colleagues would vent about missing family, but I couldn't relate. I quietly planned my life post-research. In my future, there was no place for my parents or Luna. During the first week after I left, no one from the Brown family reached out. Mom, Dad, and their adopted daughter were busy living their perfect family life. They took Oscar to get a new family photo with Mom in a cheapao and Dad in a tang suit. Luna and Oscar stood behind them like the picture of family bliss. Even Luna's dog was in the picture, but I wasn't. My mom, who rarely posted on social media, surprisingly shared this family photo captioned, "Having you all in my life is happiness." It got hundreds of likes from friends and family, and she grinned from ear to ear, completely lost in her joy. But I, who was always the first to reply, didn't react to this post at all, completely silent like the dead. After 3 days, her smile started to fade and she closed her phone with some doubt. She muttered, "Ungrateful child, Mom rarely posts, and not a peep of concern from you." She hesitated for a moment, then dialed my number, but it went unanswered after several rings. Frowning, she tried a few more times with the same outcome. Holding the phone, she went to Dad and said, "Maybe we should contact Wendy. She's been gone too many days without any news, and her phone's unreachable. What if something happens?" Dad snorted dismissively. "Where could she go? Nowhere else is home. She's just throwing a tantrum. When life gets tough outside, she'll come crawling back." Mom tried to say more, but Luna intervened, looking concerned. "Don't worry, Mom and Dad. Sister won't be in danger. She's probably just upset about you guys siding with me on my birthday." She kept talking about leaving as if to protest. I think she's just acting out. Mom's anger flared at this. What? Trying to threaten us? Here I was worried about her for nothing. What a waste. I'm changing the house locks right now. When she returns, she won't even get in. Without a doubt, she believed Luna and brushed off my departure as a tantrum. A fleeting smile crossed Luna's face, quickly replaced by a sad expression. Mom saw it and immediately asked, Luna, what's wrong? Why are you upset? Mom and Dad, if sister's gone, what about her arranged marriage? I really love Oscar and he wants to be with me forever, but I feel like he still has reservations about the engagement Grandpa arranged. It's kept us from getting closer. Oscar's grandpa had set an engagement for him with me. After I got lost, since there was no confirmation of my death, the arranged marriage wasn't called off. When I got back home, everyone silently agreed not to bring it up. It was clear to anyone paying attention that Luna and Oscar had something going on. My dad heard about it and slammed his hand on the table, declaring, I'm in charge here. The arrangement between Wendy and Oscar is canceled. You two are getting engaged next week. I'll make it big and fancy so that everyone knows you're the daughter we truly cherish, not some ridiculous Wendy. Luna got the answer she wanted but pretended to still be worried. What if my sister doesn't agree? She asked. She'd always get upset and break us apart whenever she saw me with Oscar before. This made my dad even angrier, and he immediately called his assistant. Get Wendy on the phone right away. I want her at Luna and Oscar's engagement party to give them her blessing personally. With that said, Dad got busy arranging the engagement himself, but the assistant tried reaching me for 3 days, only getting a busy signal each time. Tracking my last known movements showed only a record of my last flight. It was like I had disappeared. My footprints vanished the day I left home. The assistant, sweating, reported back to my dad. Mr. Harry, it seems Wendy is missing. I couldn't reach her. Dad repeated in disbelief. What? The assistant said again, I've tried everything and checked everywhere she might go, but there's no sign of Wendy. Dad frowned, realizing something was off. He was silent for a long time before finally slamming the table and shouted, that ungrateful child. Betrayer. She's hiding so no one can find her because she knows her sister's getting engaged. We wasted our resources on this kid. He wanted to vent more but stopped after a while. Suddenly, Dad realized he hadn't really spent much on me, no money, time, or attention compared to what he gave Luna. In the Brown family, I barely survived in the shadows unnoticed. He was at a loss for words. The assistant chimed in, Mr. Harry, maybe you could send her some money? She might come back once she gets the cash. Dad thought for a bit, then said, okay, send her 500,000. The assistant hesitated, that's too much. Wendy's usually strapped for cash. Even 10,000 or 20,000 would suffice for her. Dad was taken aback and asked, what do you mean, didn't you send her any allowance? When the assistant said no, Dad furrowed his brows. He assumed I got money since Luna always did, and he never worried about these things. How was she living without money? She relied on her PhD stipend and some scholarships. Dad was silent, then waved the assistant away. That night, when he came home from work, the family sat down for dinner. Luna showed off her cooking by serving dumplings again, and she mentioned me casually. The last time I made dumplings was for my sister, but she slapped them onto the floor. I wrapped my hand in heavy bandages. It hasn't healed yet. Usually Dad always supported Luna, but now it was odd to hear him defend me. Maybe your sister didn't mean it. She might have accidentally bumped into you. Luna paused, looking hurt. So, you're saying I did it on purpose? Dad quickly backtracked, of course not, sweetie, I always believe in you. The atmosphere around the table subtly shifted. Luna asked offhandedly, have you found any sign of my sister? With Dad's denial, Mom seemed uneasy. She tugged on Dad's arm and suggested, should we ask around at Wendy's school? Perhaps her classmates know where she went. This time my dad agreed without hesitation. The next day, they visited the school where I was pursuing my PhD. They knocked on my advisor's office. Dad wasted no time asking, where's Wendy? The advisor, surprised they'd show up, lifted his head from a paper to answer, I don't know. Mom was anxious, how could you not? You're her advisor. Isn't she one of your students? Luna was there too, idly playing with her phone on the office couch. She cut in, did she run off because she couldn't graduate? I've heard about students trying to blackmail their advisors by disappearing. The advisor shook his head, refuting instantly. Wendy's academic performance is outstanding. If she can't graduate, no one can. Baffled, Dad asked. Then why did she vanish without a trace? Isn't she still in school? Seemingly annoyed, the advisor said, Wendy has already graduated with her PhD. Aren't you her family? How come you didn't know? Where she goes after graduation is her decision. If she didn't tell you, there's no way for me to know. My parents fell silent. Luna twisted a button on her sleeve, her mind elsewhere. Back home, the parents began using their connections to search for me nationwide. They spun a tale, claiming they wanted to bring me home for an ancestral ceremony, since they'd never formally inducted me into the family. Luna was upset, trailing after the parents, insisting, I'm your daughter too. I can stand in for my sister and join the family. Once I'm recognized, I can take over the Brown family business. As of now, Luna only held ownership of a tech company founded by Dad. Most of the Brown family's assets hadn't been transferred to her name yet, so she felt a little anxious when she heard about it. Her father stared at her, sizing her up, and suddenly spoke. I haven't even stepped down yet, and you're already scheming for the family inheritance. Even though Luna quickly denied it, it planted a seed of doubt in her father's mind. My parents finally remembered something good about me. Ever since I was brought back to the Brown family, I have never coveted their money or assets, nor have I ever made any demands. Luna, feeling cold-shouldered, got a little smarter. She didn't dare stand by idly and volunteered to help find me. She left the house early every day and didn't come back until late. My mom was touched by this. She thought perhaps Luna's previous plotting was just an illusion, and maybe Luna was still a good kid. However, when she went to bring Luna some food, she accidentally discovered the truth. Luna had her office door wide open, chatting carelessly with her bestie. My parents still think Wendy just decided not to come back on her own. It's hilarious. They'll believe anything I say and can't imagine their daughter got hit and ended up in the hospital. You should have hit harder, maybe a broken bone, so she'd be bedridden for 3 months. It's all because Wendy always acts so high and mighty, yet she can't let go of Mom and Dad. I had to use some tricks to drive a wedge between them. Mom stood there, pale-faced, listening to Luna describe in a mocking tone all her past tricks and lies against me. Finally, she couldn't hold back anymore, stormed in, and threw the food box at her. She pointed at the screaming Luna, using the harshest tone. Luna, you actually hurt my daughter? Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? Luna never expected her schemes would be exposed like this and turned white with fear right away. Mom, I didn't mean to hurt Wendy. I just felt insecure. Please forgive me this time. I promise to get along well with Wendy and never set her up again. My mom glanced at her with disdain and coldly refused. Back when your sister returned, you begged us the same way. I won't fall for the same trick twice. Mom told everything to Dad, and he was deeply shocked. He almost had a heart attack from the anger. No matter how Luna begged, they kicked her out of the house without a hint of mercy. Mom had all of Luna's belongings thrown outside like trash, piling them up high, and all the luxury goods bought for her over the years with the family money were confiscated. Luna held onto her expensive jewelry, unwilling to let go. These things are mine too, why can't I have them? Mom mocked. Who said they're yours? If not for your existence, these things would have been your sister's. You said I was your real daughter, and you'd buy me anything I wanted. I treated you like family, and now you're kicking me out? Where am I supposed to go? Mom, let me stay, even if it's in the smallest room. I promise to behave. Luna cried and put on her most heart-wrenching act, but Mom wasn't moved. As for your tech company, we'll withdraw all of our investments. There won't be any support, and marriage alliances are out of the question too. She slammed the door, ignoring Luna's banging and cries from outside. As she walked into the villa, she suddenly turned towards the place where I used to live. Seeing the poor living conditions, almost like those of a servant's quarters, her tears fell. Wendy, my child, how did you live in such hardship? It's us who didn't treat you well. Up until now. She seemed to start regretting all the years they were hard on me, one by one coming back to haunt her, making her cry even harder. Your parents finally realized our mistake. We will do everything we can to make it up to you. But where on earth did you go? How come you left without a word? Please send us a message to let us know you're alive. The small room was empty, with no trace of me having ever been there. She collapsed onto my bed, touching the only bed sheet with my scent left, sobbing incessantly. Sadly, just like when I went missing as a child without a trace, I vanished cleanly now too, leaving them unable to find me no matter how hard they tried to be. By the time my secluded research was over, it had been 5 years. I packed my bags, got on a plane, and flew to a new city for a new line of research. I no longer yearned for family companionship as I once did, and found solace in being on my own. By chance, I contacted my PhD advisor. He told me, over these years your parents have been desperately looking for you. They genuinely seem heartbroken. Now that you're back, do you want to see them? After thinking it over, I still refused. I don't want any contact with them. Please don't share any news about me. My advisor understood my family situation and knew that during my school years, I nearly couldn't afford to eat. Back then, he dipped into his own pocket to help cover my tuition, so I barely made it through. He agreed without hesitation. All right, I'll keep it a secret. Remember, take some time to come back and visit. Your fellow students really miss you. Without a thought, I nodded in agreement. After all, I missed them too. But when I returned to the city where I did my PhD right after landing, my parents blocked me at the airport. They somehow found out my flight details and cornered me there. Mom looked at me in disbelief, as if confirming I was still alive, and rushed to embrace me, tears falling. Daughter, my child, it's so good to have you back. Where have you been all these years? We've been searching desperately for you. I was kind of speechless at her reaction, feeling no emotional waves inside. I just pushed Mom away, not planning to cooperate with their emotional reunion. Oh, now I'm your daughter? When you kicked me out back then, you certainly didn't hesitate. Dad, hearing this, struggled to speak and actually apologized to me. Sorry, Wendy. We didn't know what Luna did to you back then. We trusted her too much, which led to that outcome. Dad knows you hold a grudge, but can you give us a chance to make it up to you? Anything you want, Dad will buy it for you. The family's company and all the money will be yours. I shook my head. I'm not interested in taking over the company. I only like the research you all think is useless. I don't want to embarrass you. With that, I picked up my luggage and planned to leave. Dad urgently said, we support you in doing research. We'll invest as much money as you need. I brushed his hand away. No need. Don't stop me. I'm leaving. Just then, someone suddenly jumped out from the corner and kneeled in front of me. I looked closely. It was Luna, whom I hadn't seen in a long time. She looked haggard, far from her former glory. Her clothes were yellowed and worn, and she seemed to be having a rough time. Mom tried to kick her out, but Luna stubbornly refused to leave and even started bowing to me repeatedly. Sister, I'm sorry for what I did before. Please forgive me, okay? Mom and Dad kicked me out because of you, and now I'm nowhere to go. If you don't forgive me, I'll just stay kneeling here until I die. I smirked. Luna was still as despicable as ever. What, can't you survive without the Brown family? You have hands and feet, so why not get a job to support yourself instead of coming here to play the victim? You're just trying to get back into Mom and Dad's good graces through me. You don't really mean to apologize at all. Luna's face went pale instantly. She didn't expect me to expose her so directly. She opened her mouth but couldn't say a word. I just shook off the three of them and headed for a cab to the school. Dad and Mom didn't give up. They followed me in their car. They saw me joining my friends at school and quickly followed, but the security guard stopped them at the gate. Despite my ignoring their cries, they could only wait outside, hoping I'd come around. Even though the winter was brutally cold, colder than the year I was kicked out, I remained firm. After a small gathering with my mentor and friends at a restaurant, it was already 3 or 4 in the morning. I planned to grab a cab to a hotel, but I spotted that same persistent car from earlier following me. Dad put out his cigarette and smiled when he saw me. Done eating? Come home with us tonight. We've cleared out the best room in the villa for you. Mom, holding a scarf, tenderly wrapped it around me. Why wear so little? Don't catch a cold. I knitted this myself for you. I declined their kindness and said straightforwardly, don't follow me anymore. I won't come back to you. You can make Luna your daughter. Hearing this, my parents turned pale, frozen in place. I returned to my city the next day, but their persistence didn't end. No matter where I went, they would come chasing after me, even using money as a tactic. Mom bought me a villa right downtown and forcibly handed me the deed. Regardless of whether I wanted it or not, sweetheart, just keep it. It's a token of my love. Dad got me 5 luxury cars, parked them right in front of my workplace. Honey, I'm sorry. Just take these cars. Drive a different one each day if you like. As for Luna, who became too troublesome, they sent her to a mental hospital. I've heard she's having a hard time there, undergoing daily shock therapy. After failing to shake them off, I decided to stop struggling altogether. Time went on and I met a great guy. We decided to start a family. On our wedding day, I didn't invite my parents. They probably didn't dare to attend, watching from a distance instead. After the ceremony, Mom suddenly pulled the groom aside and gave him a big envelope, tearfully saying, "This is from Mom for you to use after the wedding. You have to take care of Wendy." My husband was confused since I had told him I was an orphan. "Who is she?" I calmly replied, "I don't know, some random lady who must have wandered in by accident." Then I returned the envelope to Mom and left with my husband. 2 years later, I gave birth to our first child. One day my husband was pushing the stroller for a sunny walk downstairs, but he rushed back home looking a bit shaken. "Wendy, there's a creep in the neighborhood who keeps following me and the baby. Whenever we go for a walk, they're there, saying they're the grandparents and want to hold their grandchild. They even shoved this thing at me, and it's a longevity lock made of gold." He passed the lock to me. It was huge. I didn't panic. I calmly took a sip of tea. "Don't worry, I'll handle this." I went downstairs and sure enough, the Browns were in the garden waiting. They got nervous seeing me after years of avoidance from my side. I stood my ground and spoke coldly. "No matter how much you give, I won't accept it." Mom quickly waved her hand. "It's okay. We're just happy if you're willing to see us. We won't expect anything more." Dad anxiously added, "Sweetheart, we just want you to be well. Raising kids is expensive, right? Dad will wire you $1 million. Spend it however you like." I massaged my temples, slightly exasperated. "At your age, wouldn't it be better to retire peacefully at home instead of running around after me? You should just give up." They both said in unison, "No way. We'll keep trying until you forgive us." Seriously, enough is enough. I turned and ran off. The end.